Hello! Welcome to OJ Studios. Please enjoy this week's chapter of what I did during spring break. Chapter 18 Awake. I opened my eyes to the dim light that filtered into the dark room. It took me a few minutes to see what was around me, as the drugs in my system wore off. Except for a kerosene lamp on a table, there was only natural lighting. I listened for a minute but heard no beeps from the heat monitor or any sound of anything electric running. It took me a moment to realize that the power was still out, and they probably had the generator off to save on fuel since I was the last one in our group. I was free from the restraints and I slowly tried to get up. But before I could, I heard someone in the corner get up from a chair and walk over to where I am. "You're awake!" I heard Abby's voice say as she stood up and got closer to me. I could barely see her in the dim lighting. "Yeah," I said. My voice was a little hoarse when I spoke, so I could not tell if I was back to being a man or not. "Am I back?" I asked. I saw Abby stop mid-stride. She looked at me and somehow, I could tell that she had bad news. "No," she said in almost a whisper. "There's been an accident." I looked over to her, my eyes widened in fear. "What happened?" I asked. "The generator outside got overheated and blew. Abby said it surged and fried the machine that changed us." "How long until it's fixed?" I asked. Abby just stood there for a moment, probably trying to figure out what all to say. "That's not the problem. The problem is that the DNA strand that the half of your boy formed to turn your back into Luke got destroyed when the surge happened." My heart fell as I sat up and put my hand up to my head and felt the long hairs that I had gotten used to over the last few days. "So, I'm stuck like this?" I asked. I could feel tears start to form around my eyes. "I'm sorry," Abby said, taking my hand. I wanted to pull my hand away from her and scream in frustration and ask how she thought this was going to be alright. But instead, I held her hand and tried to make a brave face. "So, what's going to happen to me now?" I asked. Abby got onto the medical bed and beside me and let me lean into her. I could feel sadness as my worst fear again came true, and now, I have to mourn my old life. "You are biologically still Steven's daughter, and he has agreed to take you in as his daughter. Justin said he will be the best uncle you ever had, which is a good thing since I'm an only child and Steven has 2 sisters. I just hope that I can be just as good of a stepmother to you." I looked over to Abby, who then looked like she told me too much. "My stepmom?" I asked. Abby raised her hand up and on her ring finger laid a diamond ring. "Steven asked me to marry him after you went in for your procedure. I took your advice and said yes." "Congrats," I said. I was not really in the mood to celebrate. Instead, I just stood up and asked for us to just go home. "Sure, sweetie," Abby said before helping me down from the medical bed. I took her hand and walked out of the room with her. Steven drove us straight home and I went into my room. There was a pile of girl clothes sitting in the middle of the floor. I was going to pick them up and donate them, but now I guess they are mine to keep. I made a beeline to my bed, laid down and started to cry.